Okay, I think this is a good point to welcome all of you to the last week. Week 6 is indeed been a long journey. So I can imagine how each of you would have felt when we started. I'm sure when you look back, you can imagine that you spent about 36 days in the same space with me. So for me, it's been an interesting journey, and each time I look at each of the subject that we've been talking about, it really makes sense because I can imagine how much I've built upon these things over the years. And sometimes, this understanding comes spontaneously. And one of the things I want you to learn along the journey or along the way is the fact that you need to know how to respond to this kind of spontaneous opportunity. I mean, some opportunity will not come unorchestrated, right? They will come as a result of things that you've done. Like this 36 days now, you have actually initiated some things that it might take few months, might take maybe a year plus or thereabout before you begin to see them manifest in your life. And by the time they're manifesting, then they come spontaneously, and you wonder, oh, at what point did this happen and all of that? So you have to just watch out and begin to see the fruit from all the seeds that has been sown. And that's why this last phase, this last week, considering the H factor, as we're looking at legacies, we're looking at, consolidating on impact, it's good that we generally look at the principle around harvest. Okay, so H in the growth factors talk about harvest. I mean, after planting, what next? Is just for you to harvest, right? So imagine you've been running all across a walk path and it seems you are nearing the end of a tunnel. You really want to see the light. So in this case, you want to talk about the light as a manifestation of an harvest. But when we're talking about the growth mindset, what do you think should be the light at the end of the tunnel? What do you think should be the experience of harvest for you? So those are the things we are going to be considering for the next few days as we round up. So for me, it's just more like a final fireside chat, just to talk around, um, some other few responsibilities that you need to embrace so that you know that this journey is indeed a journey of how you need to leave behind you legacies, how you need to leave behind you, um, you know, indelible marks, things you can term to be impact, right? And we're going to start with the first one, and that's what I have titled to be mentoring, considering the subject of mentorship. How can you empower other people? I mentioned it, I think 2 or 3 days ago during the session that, your purpose was created in such a way that there are other dependent goals, there are other dependent purposes associated with your own purpose. So you not fulfilling purpose or not even giving consideration to pursuing your purpose is as good as other people being unable to fulfill their own purpose. So in prayer management we call it dependencies. There are items within your um, work plan, within your um, activity diagram, that you will see that for those activities to be performed, you need to have carried out some other activities without which you cannot do these other activities. So we call them dependencies. So likewise, there are some lives that, they would not attain their height, they will not attain, their own average, except you have actually set out and, you have gotten to the point where you have actually left legacies. So those are the things that I believe you need to begin to open your eyes to see, regardless of the age, regardless of the time you are currently walking through. You need to start considering. In law, once you start seeing yourself building wealth and creating some streams of opportunities around yourself, you are gaining traction, you are moving at a high velocity, making money, building empires, creating opportunities for people. The next thing people will start, pushing over to you has to do with you creating, you have to just consult with your lawyer to create a will, because at that point in time, the final day of harvest may show up, and it's just another kind of Mr. Murphy who will always show up, even when you least expect. So all of these things are part and parcel of the journey that you cannot ignore. Okay, in order for you to be able to still keep your focus on your purpose, and you are not derailed from the goal. Okay, so let's quickly look at mentoring. For me, I mean, many people have defined mentoring in different ways, but I would talk about mentoring in a very, very simple way, because this is exactly what this program also is all about, right? I see mentoring as an important part of our lives where you build relationship. Okay, it's an important part of our lives. You build relationships, just like I've come to meet every one of you, and those of you that have persisted up to this very point in time. At least we've come to know each other a little bit closer, and sharing your life experiences, and also me sharing my life experiences as a way of rubbing on each other. So this is what mentoring is all about. When you create that kind of opportunity to build a relationship whereby there's an exchange of knowledge or experiences in order to be able to guide, the mentees, for them to be able to have greater perspective and have deeper insights into the different dimensions of life. And the purpose of this mentorship is very, very uh, uh, um, clearly explained, right? What I mean by clearly explained is there is no way you want to do life by just walking alone. I mean, you just don't want to run the race of life alone. As social animals or social human beings, you need to ride on other people's shoulders. Like, people will always say that experience is the best teacher. And I usually go further to say I don't necessarily have to have all experiences in this world for me to be taught the basic lessons of life. I can actually learn from other people's experiences. I don't need to have the same experience. So it's the reason why, you through the skills that is being expressed, the level of understanding. Imagine all the books I've read in this life. You don't necessarily have to read all of them, right? Some of them I've been sharing with you. Some of them I've actually shared, giving you an indication. Like, I can summarize everything inside that Tim Lyale's book in just few sentences, or in just about one or two paragraphs, which will take you to go through. Then there are so many other books I've read. There are so many subjects I've been taught in life. When I was talking about the issue of emotional intelligence, I mean, so that is just the benefit of mentorship. Likewise, there are a lot of things I've learned from some people that have mentored me, that I don't have to. Some of them I've mentioned their names in the course of this session, during this journey. Quite a lot of things. I only just need to listen to them over and over again for me to be able to pick certain things and some of their own experiences too. That is just the way life is wired, and it's very, very pertinent that you seize the opportunity, right? And for the mentorship structure is usually bipolar. I mean, it involves two set of people. It involves two parties. You have the mentee and then you have the mentor. Okay. So for any mentorship to be a mentorship or to make sense and to be impactful, there has to be a mentee and there has to be a mentor. Whoever initiates it, the truth of the matter is there has to be both parties involved, right? And unlike people that will say, "Oh, they are merely observing some role models for them to be able to uh, understand the way of life through their own perspective." I mean, there are different ways by which you can go about mentorship, but the most effective one is the one that has, I mean, I'm talking about in terms of impact now, is the one that has direct involvement of both parties, just like what we've been having. Imagine if you don't necessarily have to relate with me in each of these sessions, and all I just need to do is just to um, give you access to just be listening to my messages or listening to some of these things. It won't be as impactful as you are here. We're able to engage, you ask questions, even outside of each of the sessions, you still be able to have, access to ask for the questions. This is more impactful. So that is why I always imagine how much the people that are not in this session in person, I mean, they are not here live, sorry, not in person, they are not here live, how much they are going to glean from all the conversations by just merely listening to the messages. So it's very important that um, to be able to harness the full benefits, there must be deep involvement of both parties, because it's like the friction that occurs between the rubbings of two metals, you know, iron sharpens iron. So no matter how low anyone's experiences are in life, you cannot dispute it, because what you know, and what you've experienced in life, so each other person's require that level of sharing in order to know how to leverage on the experiences. So that's what mentorship or mentoring is all about. And how does this enable you to achieve success, right? Because it's a form of relationship, okay? It's a form of relationship. And I told you when we're discussing about effective communication, communication is the soul of every relationship. Once you are able to establish effective communication in this type of relationship, you can be rest assured that it's going to be very, very impactful. Impactful in the sense that both the mentee and the mentor will have a way by which their life is being transformed. I can tell you for free, being in the space with you all for the past 36 days has been impactful for me as an individual. Getting to hear your personal experiences, reading through some of your assignments has also given me or shapen my perspective in life, and that's the beauty of life. Diversity, varieties is a spice of living. So that's exactly the way mentorship, outplays. And for anyone not to remain stagnant, for anyone not to be so fixed on his own view of life, you need to find a way to engage at this level. So after this session, part of what you're going to be seeing as the harvest activity would also include you committing to mentoring others, empowering others. Okay, you have to find a way to also, exactly as you have received, you also need to give, because it's more blessed to give than to receive. So you have been taken through this 40 days journey, whatever it is that you have started cultivating or building in yourself, or other areas of life that you think you are strong, you need to also find a way to strengthen other people. So these are part of the benefit of mentorship. Okay, so let's look at what should be your posture I mean, because in this case now, you are going to be emerging as also a typical mentor. So what should be your posture? You see, all those things that we analyze when you carried out your personality type comes to bear. You know, what are your dominant traits? There are certain traits you have that may not necessarily, enhance your success as a mentor. You need to determine them. But by and large, these four critical attributes, would give you a good posture as a mentor. The first one has to do with patience. You have to have that large heart to be able to accommodate other people's growth process. And you cannot imagine if you are almost about 50 in this session, that means my heart should have been as large as anything, right? So sometimes you need to also understand your capacity, in order to be able to accommodate people's nuances. So that's what patience actually means. So that in the process of engaging with people that you want to share your experiences with and also show the growth mindset and growth pathway too, you don't end up biting yourself by, making yourself vulnerable in exposing your own weaknesses. I mean, I have my weaknesses, and rather than celebrating my weaknesses, I'll allow patience to override and enable me to exhibit my strength. So this is a very fundamental um, attribute that you need to embrace. So if you think you don't have these attributes, in order to emerge as a serious and effective mentor, you need to put it as your goal list, okay, as part of the things you need to build. Then the other one, which is closely related to this, has to do with active listening. Active listening, the level by which you pay attention intuitively, is very, very important. And it will help by the time you begin to develop high emotional intelligence quotient. The higher your EQ, the stronger your active listening capacity, the bigger and the more increased your active listening capacity will be. But for some who doesn't have good EQ, there's always going to be this conflict, in paying attention to people when they're trying to communicate their concerns, their ideals, and their needs. So it's a big job, but it becomes easier if you know that this is essential, and then you know the responsibility that is before you. Then the third one has to do with empathy. Empathy. This was one of the things that we discussed, when we're considering, um, was it the third week or the fourth week? I think either the um, O factor or the W factor. You need to go back to listen to the message. I mean, sorry, the session, specifically on this issue of empathy. You have to have this level of competencies, that gives necessary support and enhances, the chances of other people to grow. With empathy, there is no one that cannot be rescued. That's what I usually tell myself. So I'll rather, develop a bigger capacity where my empathy repository is so large. Okay. Imagine you putting yourself in the position of almost about 30 people, 50 people, 100 people. That will be a whole lot because everybody will have their independent experiences, their different experiences, unique experiences. So how do you put yourself in their position? And most of these experiences cannot be dissociated from problems, right? So empathy will enable you to have this effective way of helping others to navigate through their challenges in life, not because you have absence of challenge or challenges. In fact, yours may even be more domineering. But with empathy, you are able to kind of like have control, some supernatural control over your own challenges and still be able to condescend to the level of other people. to face a challenge. Something happened. Uh, I mean, my week was almost going to be destroyed or completely, washed off and turned into a disarray yesterday. I got a call from one of my staff, and then, he actually lost his father. And I've already built a lot of activities around him for this week, which was supposed to commence yesterday. And I mean, it was almost at noonday yesterday when he sent me a message, and immediately I read the message, I could feel the way he felt, when he heard the news of his father's demise. So part of what empathy would do is for you to be able to uplift the person in order not to lose the morale, because that could affect so many other things. Remember when I was talking about dependencies? Because largely all my goals for this week is majorly pivoted towards this person. So meaning that if there's no morale, if there's no strong energy coming from him, automatically almost everything I'm supposed to achieve this week with all the team members and with everybody that is on assignments, will definitely be a catastrophe, will be a major defeat. So, I mean, with empathy, I have to find a way to kind of like create necessary support and whatever. So this calls for level of understanding, how you express your empathy. And don't forget, empathy is different from sympathy. They are not two different things, and you should never misconstrue them. When you're talking about empathy, is more about the actions you take to promote the growth in spite of the situation. Okay. It's like you putting yourself in that situation, in that condition, in lieu of whoever is having the strange experience or experiences. So the question will now be, what would you do in that situation? That's the way empathy looks. That's the perspective of empathy compared to sympathy. Sympathy completely removes yourself from the situation, and there is no way you can have meaningful impact when you are not involved, when you are not engaged. These are the power words. These are the transformative words or transformative actions in every situation to create a good experience for people that will lead them into transformation. Okay, so you must be able to put yourself in that situation or right within the premise in order for you to be able to determine logically, what needs to be done to create that good experience for transformation. So empathy is very, very important. Then the final one has to now do with encouragement, which is more like your decision, right? You've understood what the person is going through, like what happened in the case of my worker, So the next thing I needed to now imagine is, what can I do, to help the situation? Sometimes you truly going to feel helpless. Imagine someone just lost his father. What can one do to bring back the father? If there is a prayer that can be prayed in such a way that the person will rise again. I mean, that's part of what you just be thinking about. But in the absence of that, you have to create some kind of new environment where he's going to have a new or she's going to have a different experience. You know, so the way you need to give that succor, the way you need to give, commit yourself to the level of by which the person have a reinforced confidence and trust, is part of what you want to give as encouragement. So it's not just about the words. It's not just about the what's it called now? The tribute. It's not just about the what's it called now? The consolation. It's more about how you take meaningful actions. Okay, meaningful actions. For instance, it might just be that you want to take responsibility of certain things. I'm just saying generally because of what just happened to me recently. It can come in any way, right? Where you need to exhibit empathy. And in terms of exhibiting empathy, you have to take action. So it's not just about the words of mouth, right? It's not just going to be a show of presence to let, you know, to just let people know that I'm here. like you are filling a space. No, it's going to be more about the tangible actions that are going to take that will restore back whatever may have impacted wrongly the morale of the person involved, right? Because you need the person's groove on board at all times for you to be able to achieve success. And if these people, these team members, or these support group members, or the people I classify to be your destiny helpers are very germane to your journey, you want to give them that level of attention that is required, you know, so that you quickly ensure that they are not lost entirely in your journey. So these are qualities that an effective mentor you need to do. So a lot of times when I'm asking you, share your testimonies, how else can I help, communicate, and all of that, it's simply because I want to try as much as possible to give the necessary support that you require, because of the connection and because of the establishment of this relationship for this journey. So it's going to be mutual. I mean, some people don't dispose themselves to be helped. There's nothing you can do about that. So it's also part of the quality of a mentor. You cannot force your opinion. You cannot force yourself. In as much as you have this high EQ and you want to help, there's still limitation because someone that is not disposed to help, there's nothing you can do about it, until the person because they're quite. I mean, you see funny different type of human makeups. Some people, it might take them 100 years to get to where they want to get to. Some people, it will take them just 2 years. Some people, it's going to take them few days, few months. So people move at different level in life. So you need to also understand that and be able to now define what is needful per person, what is necessary per person, so that you don't generalize and all of that. I know quite a number of you that have, outside of the sessions, you've been reaching out, send mails, message, we've had one-on-one sessions as well. All of these things, are part of the way you build the support, for the mentees, which is premised on the empathy, which I talked about. So it's important that you are willing to commit to that. It might require extra effort, it might require extra level of commitment across board, but it's something that you should be able to, because the overall goal at the end of the day is you're actually channeling the mentee towards the path of transformation and eventual achievement of his purpose or achieving success. So these are the qualities. And before you end this program in 4 days' time, make sure you have ascertained that you have built or you are building this quality in yourself. If you are someone who is not given to patience, now you know what it has to be. Patience sometimes might mean long suffering. Patience might mean long suffering. Patience sometimes might just
Did he get knocked off?
oh my God, Chai, at what point did you stop hearing me?
Oh my goodness.
At what point did you stop hearing me? I've said so many things. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so what
The
I'm
last
talking
thing
about
I
is
wrote, uh, The last
Yeah,
thing
go ahead.
was you said you have to build these qualities for yourself if you're someone who's not patient.
Wow. Okay.
I
Thank
know.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So, yes, the qualities are part of what will help you to achieve success when you venture into mentorship. So it requires deliberate efforts, in ensuring that you have those quality. Then I now move to, to talk about the steps that you need to take. And I was talking about my first experience at this, almost about 20, 25 years ago when I took the first course or training with John Maxwell, the John Maxwell leadership training, the first level. You know, one thing that keeps ringing in my head up till this very moment, over 20 years ago now, is the fact that in emerging as an effective leader at any tier of life or at any level in life has to do with your ability to be able to reproduce yourself in people, and it talks about succession planning, right? Your first preoccupation, your first assignment in leadership has to do with the fact that you have to think about how you want to create, yourself in other people. Anything other than that automatically makes you a failed leader. Unfortunately, when you look at governance system, they try to emulate these this concept of effective leadership, but the strategy and the method is what is wrong. I mean, the principle, they got it correct because every leader wants to ensure that they have a successor. I mean, either by imposition or by intentionally mentoring the person, blah, 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 and all of that. Intentionally, I mean, they have this. So before the he or she finishes his tenure, he knows the person that is going to be his successor, something like that. But the strategy and the method is what they always get wrong because the intention behind this plan is not for growth. So I need to mention this because I don't want us to lose focus on where we're coming from. All of these things are tied to growth. They are tied to fulfillment of purpose. They are tied to, growth mindsets, right? And that's why, you need to understand that the reason why you need to give into this is because you need to also reproduce yourself in other people, and be sure that there's going to be other bigger ways by which sustainably you're impacting lives and leaving good legacies. Okay, so to go through this process, the first thing is for you to know exactly what you want to achieve. Okay, what you want to achieve through the mentorship. Uh, I mean, it's not far-fetched. Primarily, the fact that you want to impact and empower other people. Okay, you want to enable them to succeed. You want to give them the necessary support for them to be able to also realize their dreams, realize their goals, discover and identify their purpose, and be on the pathway of growth. Okay, for them to also develop growth mindset. So I mean, that's primarily the goals. However, there might be some other things that you want to hard to hit, which might just be specific. Maybe it's targeted towards a particular need, maybe it's targeted towards a particular cause, right? So that might be part of the objective of uh, the mentoring as well. A very good example is, I mean, you may have a goal that is so fixed on one dimension of life, maybe something around career. You want to do career mentorship for people, or you want to focus on relationship, or you want to focus on spirituality, like we mentioned yesterday. You just have that understanding that people are having issues in dealing with that dichotomy in life. So you can easily pick any of these things, but make sure you establish that goal because that will keep you in track and keep you focused, like we have done throughout this period up to now. I could have come here unorganized, talking to you about several things, blah, 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 and all of that, but each of the day has been specifically tailored, and then we cannot build on each other. Imagine if I started talking for mentorship and then I later jump into talking effective communication. and then jump into, there's no way you'll be able to articulate the knowledge and the experiences being shared and then be able to upskill yourself and reposition your life for bigger achievements and fulfillment of your goals eventually. So that's why it's very important. Then the second step, you move from there and you move into the trust management level. Okay, here you need to ensure that you set um, a proper structure that will give confidence to whoever you're onboarding as mentee. You know, just like the way I started with everybody, there was an application, there were rules, ground rules, there were boundaries, all of this stuff. You know, all this gives that sense of safe haven. It gives a sense of comfort. It gives a sense of opportunity for openness, even though some I know for sure are still not open because, I mean, when people are so locked up, you know, within themselves, it will take a lot of effort. Sometimes the journey of 40 days might not be sufficient to be able to break people from their cocoon, right? But the fact that there is some level of consistency, you know, is an indication that there's trust, you know. So that's the next thing you want to also focus on. Then once there's trust, there's that openness, you know, you can then begin to create opportunity for knowledge sharing, okay, where you'll be able to, you know, like have done, where I'm coming from, all the experiences I've had, things I know, I'm able to present to you to see how you can make sense with them, right? There are people who need some of these things. There are people who actually need to be uplifted about these issues that they're struggling with, which practically are basic pain points, right? So you need to find a way to communicate this effectively. Sometimes it might be a mix of several things. I know at some point during this journey, I had to bring in some videos for you to watch. You know, create all these slides. You know, I mean, these are easy way for you to be able to communicate knowledge. I'm sure if I always come here every evening and I'm just talking without you having maybe slides to see or videos to watch. I don't give you materials, no templates, no what's it called now, no books to read. I'm sure that some of you will have dropped way back. I'm sure we won't have succeeded beyond I mean, if you even try for 1 week, maybe it's you giving me a benefit of doubt, right? So it takes that level of creativity, it takes that level of understanding in order for you to be able to communicate knowledge. Look at the way we teach Generation Z, Generation Alpha, and probably Generation Beta now, right? It's more with images because they think with their eye, right, and see with their head. They no longer think with their head. They think with their eyes. Is more of what they see, what they feel. All these other sense organs are what they use in thinking. And they need to open their head and put on their thinking cap. But how do you do that with that generation who are so caught in with technology, right? So you have to be that dynamic and you have to be very adaptable to learning skills that will help you to enable effective communication and sharing your knowledge. Then, as I always bother all of you, is the fact that you need to develop system of receiving feedbacks. And I already told you today, part of the major feedbacks I'll be looking forward to, apart from the very final one, which is you filling the survey, is the fact that you need to develop ways by which you get a feedback, you know, through the assignment, you know, through the comment. Sometimes you don't even feel like talking and all of that. So, I mean, you just need to find a way to get all those feedbacks. How much I wish that this is an in-person thing because mentorship with in-person system sometimes is even more effective. Like people used to say in our local parlance that there's more that meets the highs that you can ever think of when you see eye to high balls, right? There's more that meets the highs, meaning that uh, people will always, you know, have that sense of safety. I'm sure that some of you have never seen me before, right? So how much do you think you can feel safe compared to if we are always having physical face-to-face conversation on all these subjects? I'm sure that it will have made much more difference as well, kind of, so you need to create that, have those creative ways by which some of these things can actually be uplifted. Then naturally I would have also wanted us to use video for communication each time, but I had to respect our individual privacies because this is evening time, and for some people maybe this is just the time they're trying to also close their day, like Dr. Falashade has said. I mean, a timeline is almost like about 6 hours different or 7 hours different from ours. So you have to understand all of these things so that you put people within the space where they can be comfortable to give the feedback. So this requires that level of mutual opportunity and mutual respect that you're going to give to people. So from there, you then move into the level of control. One of the things that usually make mentorship to fail is when mentors try to steal or take away the control from the mentees. It's the other way around. Mentorship or mentoring supposed to empower mentees for them to be able to have control in order to govern their life. It's not a is not a program, or is not something to manipulate people's lives. I mean, you need to be careful in this sense, because I've seen people who got this totally wrong and then use these subjects to manipulate people's lives. It's far-fetched from that. The whole goal is you're trying to put the mentees who feels that there are certain gaps in their lives that need to be breached, and
Hello.
you. Hello, can you hear me, Bero, or is it Utman? Okay. I just heard someone interrupted. So you want to ensure that you want to help them in order to connect to how they can get the strength and the capacity to govern their lives. So part of the things that I've shared with you, you see there are rallies around this as well. Okay, because you must enable them to have that sense of responsibility. Okay, so how you devise a means to achieving that is also very important. And most times you understand the peculiarities when you get feedbacks. So again, I'm reinforcing the fact that even before we finish this in the next few days, if there are still other major feedbacks that will help me to be able to help you get control of your life, please don't withhold, because it's going to help in order for me to be able to also discern if there are other things I still need to pull out for myself and share with you or put before you. And the final one will now be for you to do an appraisal or do an assessment. I mean, I devised this in such a way that I don't have to wait till the end. That's why it has to be a progressive evaluation, a progressive assessment right from day one around each of the subjects, around each of the principles. I try to look at relatable assessments, starting from the personality type to understand self-awareness, to emotional intelligence, to understand effective communication, to understand time management, all of these things. There are progressive evaluations and assessment that you can do. Then, by the time we're rounding up, I should be also put you in a situation or put you on a track where on your own, because now that you have gained control of yourself, on your own, you should be able to also commit to how you do what we call tracking and checkups, right? You don't wait until when you fall sick before you do vital checks, vital medical checks, right? That's why we call them vital, because they're essential. As you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you take a shower twice a day, minimum, you eat 3 meals. All of these things are for your vital health, right? So it's the same way for your vital growth. You need to do vital checks. For your growth and your successful journey, you need to do vital checks on a daily basis. And part of the vital checks, which we call now evaluation assessment, has to be something that will determine whether you are still on focus, whether you are stagnant or not, right? Or whether you still have the level of commitment, to all the principles that we've discussed. So these are part of the things that I believe when you take the step in this direction, it's going to help you in order to define effectiveness in impacting other people's lives. And trust me, there are so many people. Even one thing I realize is when a subject becomes critical to you, every area of life you traverse, every side of life you move towards, you will see the impact of that concern. You're going to see, the placement of the concern. In most of my conversation in the past few days has been around how to help young people, has been around how to rescue and transform these generation that is almost getting lost completely, right? And there are quite a lot of feedbacks I'm getting from people I'm having conversation with to reinforce, starting from company executives, top management executives who are actually hiring some of these people. Today again, I was in a meeting with some CEOs, and one of them had to show me some kind of um, what's it called now? Some kind of restructuring they had in the office and how they needed to infuse um, young people, blah, 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 and the challenges they're already facing. Immediately I laughed, and because I felt, oh, this further reinforced, my concern, further reinforced, my queries and what I've always been thinking about. So you will see all these kind of things manifest, and that's the reason why you need to keep doing that tracking, because there's a need for validation so that you are not just wasting your time on making fruitless efforts. Rather, you are trying to continue to commit to ensuring growth in the right direction. And invariably, this is going to also help you. Before I left the meeting, I just shared with you that I had today, I had to now do a little appraisal of myself, because when one of the young staff in that organization engaged me and we're talking, and at the end of the day, I just realized that, oh, way back almost about 20 years ago when I was, or 20 something years ago when I was almost in this same situation, right? How did I navigate it, right? That means it must have been grace, because I should necessarily have been totally lost, without any control, right? But hey, grace was sufficient. But how many people will actually lay hold of grace for them to? So that's the need for mentorship. And right there after the conversation, the CEO just told me, you know what? I think I now have an eye assignment I need to do beyond just hiring these people. It's the fact that you need to start pouring yourself on them too. So this is just the simple thing that this is all about. And I believe your commitment towards it is part of what is going to uplift you. My final thoughts, I just want to show you some of the things I relate to it when it comes to sharing knowledge. Number one, you have to be as clear as possible, even though sometimes you might some things are not just simple in life. I can't remember which of the subject talking to you about some principles, and I find it so difficult to know how to share with you. It was just that so difficult, but hey, it's part of reasons why we need to continue to learn and continue to give ourselves in. Sometimes it's easy to share stories, share testimonies, but when you are now the object, right? You are now the receiver, you are the one that is being impacted, then it becomes very difficult for you to share, right? So, but make sure clarity and having good command of communication tools is part of what you are going to embrace. One of the things I had to also amplify, which of course is already part of me in the process of sharing my knowledge with you, has to do with creativity around my communication tools and skills. If you observe, you see that I use a lot of pictures, a lot of colors. This is intentional because I needed you to have that attention. I needed to be able to simply present my case to you and all of that, which anytime you watch again, you can easily grab either for refresher or also for reminder and regurgitation. So this is part of what clarity speaks to. Then you also talk about relatable experiences that you're going to share. Um, Sometimes this comes spontaneously. I mean, I don't think about some of the experiences premeditated, like the one I just shared a few minutes ago. I never planned I was going to come here and tell you how my day was. But as you share, you need to intelligently discern, what is best in order for you to be able to establish whatever principle or whatever concept or idea you're trying to enact in the conversation. So it's very, very important that you don't put people, which is part of why I always ask for feedback. I don't know how relatable some of these things are, except you tell me, because what are my personal experiences remain my personal experiences. And if they are not relatable to you, one should be able to quickly have a switch. And the switch will simply be, rather than me telling you my experiences, you tell me your experience. And then I can tell how I can help. But if my experiences are relatable enough, then you can then tailor it into your own experience, because that's the way the mutual conversation in the relationship should be like, right? Then it should be a dialogue, not a monologue. In some cases, like I've been doing since I started today, this has basically been more like a monologue. Okay. And the reason is simply because I wanted you to see what mentorship is all about and then use it to just summarize all the process we've gone through in the past 36 days. But ideally, it has to be a dialogue. And that is why I always ask you if you have things to share, if you have comment to give, because if you don't ask the question, if you don't give the comment, there is no way I can assure myself that time has not been wasted. There's no way I can assure. And the other way to also initiate dialogue is giving those assignments that I always give, because in you doing the assignment, I would know. So when you don't do the assignment, you don't comment, you don't talk, I mean, that means you are not committed to growth. That's just the meaning. You're not committed to growth, because even if things are changing in your life, if you are being impacted, if you are having some struggles within that is necessitating some readjustment, there is no way that will be communicated to me, because I'm not God. And the same thing happens if there to be someone else that is the mentor, or if you are now the mentor and you are having the experience with some mentees, So it just has to be a dialogue. It has to be a mutual conversation. It has to be effective communication, for that impact to be ascertained. And finally, has to do with the level of resources that you prepare to share with the mentees, because beyond what you are going to say, beyond what you are going to show them, is the fact that they need to also commit to lifelong learning. So all those books that I'm giving you, apart from the one I demand that you need to do a summary on, which is just, I think, just one, Tim Lyall's books, Why You Hack the Way You Do. Every other thing I'm giving you, I expect that you're going to plan yourself and see how to engage with it. And that will now spur you to commit to reading more. So I was happy when Dr. Shadi said she's reading 5 books. I'm like, yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about. You must be able to commit yourself to this, and then be able to expose yourself. And I hope with time, I'm also going to be giving you more materials that will keep you busy. Trust me. Like I do tell myself, even if I have nothing else I'm doing and someone is to pay me and take care of all my bills, and I don't have to do anything other than reading books till I die. Trust me, till I die. I can't exhaust the books in my library. Till I die, I can't exhaust the books in my library. That is how much books I have in my library. So you just need to keep learning on every area of your life in all the dimensions. Okay, so these are part of what I intended to share with you. And to drop the ball here, I want to challenge you with what I believe should be your next line of action. Number one, make sure you reflect on everything that we've discussed on. Everything from the very first day. Don't just drop them because you've submitted some of the assignments. Make sure you have a way of going back to go and check all of them, because when you will cough off those things, right, you'll be able to know how to connect to them. And just make sure that you know the specific areas where you want to start from. Then the next thing is now for you to be able to, when you get whoever it is, it might be one person, it might be a group of people, you need to know exactly, specifically, because this speaks to the goal I said the other time. Know specifically what you want to do to help. Like in this case now, my goal here was actually to help you rediscover yourself. If you remember what I said on day one, my goal was for you to rediscover yourself. And that's why we started with self-awareness, because that's where everything begins from, right? And be able to discover your purpose. And then from there, you can now talk about how to create empowerment. And empowerment is a progressive thing, in as much as I know we've done so much in the course of these 36 days and eventual 40 days. It's not going to end there, right? It might just be that we have even scratched the surface, laying foundation. You know, when you want to lay foundation, you must first of all remove the topsoil. Okay, you remove the topsoil. They are called topsoil because they have loose material. So you don't want to put your building, you don't want to put your building blocks on top of loose material. Otherwise, when rain comes, it's going to soak in everything and it's going to collapse. So you first of all remove it. You know, you remove the first cane, you shed the first cane off, and then you now begin to do other activity that involves you doing your foundational works, then build the first course, second course, third course, depending on what height you are going to in life before you get to the point of harvest. So these are things that I believe if you are committed to, trust me, it will not take long before you see that you are not just only impacting at the local level, you're actually impacting at the global level, because your life will continue to radiate such relevance, such kind of attractiveness, such kind of irresistible light that people will always want to come in to take solace. And that's what I hope that you are going to emerge with your life to be eventually. So I stop here. Now I want to ask if you have questions, feedbacks, what level of commitment you think you are going to give to this. And if at all you even started the journey in this manner, what has been your experience? Like maybe you have people you're already mentoring and all of that. What has been your experience like? Do you think going through these sessions, you have a better way of approaching this? So I would like to hear from us. Thank you.
Hi, Dr.
Yeah,
G.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this session is really key, honestly. Um, and I would say that I'm not sure if I'm ready to mentor. I take that back. No, it's not necessarily about not being ready to mentor someone, but like you said, just, s- looking for those opportunities and seizing them. But I wanted to share just experience and how this session sparked um, my own mentorship with this. He's a clinical psychologist. He's been in my life since I was about 19. Um, I started doing research under him, Dr. Javier, at my alma mater in New York in like 2007. And he was with me all the way up to my doctoral program. He was actually second chair in my committee, even though I was at another university. And so he's really stuck by me, and I feel has been so key and supportive. Sorry if you're hearing noise in the background. So key and supportive, and me even finishing my doctoral program. And we have probably an hour-long meeting, maybe once every few months. He's super, super busy, and oftentimes I don't feel like, and this session really brought it out, like how am I as a mentee am I doing my part, and what is that exactly? And I know there's different types of mentee mentor relationships. And so as you were talking, I was just jotting down some things that we haven't met this year yet, but we plan to. Some things to kind of just ask for feedback, like how have I been as a mentee? Is it, and he's very humble and he's very just encouraging and supportive. But I guess I'm just looking for feedback in general on ways to improve as a professional in our field, um, and also just learn more about him as far as what's his mindset on life, and how is he able to, because I remember asking you this question, Dr. G, about like how are you able to manage all of these things in your day? And you said mindset. And so just kind of asking my mentor, like, Dr. Javier, what is your mindset on life, and how does the things you do play into your values? And it dawned on me too that he's written so much, and he's contributed so much to our field. And how have I been supporting him and buying his books, reading his research, and also in my current state, how can I be of help? I mean, he runs a lab at a university, he has his own private practice. In what way can I support him, not for profit? And so those things kind of came up. And then lastly, sorry this is taking too long, when you mentioned the call to action and like reflecting on everything that we've covered, it brought to mind day 22 task, and how you asked about like list the mindsets that you need to change. Um, and as I wrote them out, I don't think I haven't sent it to you yet, but I listed the mindsets, and I also put beside it the sessions that I needed to pull from in order to reflect on that. And I think that that's just to put that out there. That's just another way to reflect, like as we're doing our assignments, um, seeing how we can pull from each of the sessions in order to like answer these questions. And yeah, that's really it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. That's just a typical example of what I said regarding mentorship in specific dimension of life. I mean, you just mentioned about your career and your professional practice. So, I mean, it's that simple. So eventually, if care is not taken, you might end up having a mentorship stream in different areas of life, not just one focused. So it's given, and you need to take advantage of such opportunity. So the way life is as such that you might be mentee to some people, while some people will also be mentee to you. I mean, it's that kind of a chain, and this is what exactly this session is pushing to you. You don't need to wait till the end of your journey where you think you are just waiting to be packaged home, kind of like they used to call it retirement, forgotten the name, like kind of you no longer have teeth again, and that's when you think you actually want to impact younger people. No, I mean, you don't need to wait till then. Every opportunity you've got is an opportunity to actually make a difference in the life of people using mentorship. So there are things you've known. Just imagine, even just your research, your PhD research. There are new, young professionals or new entries into the discipline who would necessarily need your experience. All those experiences you've had, all those missed opportunities, your failed attempts, all those stuff are more than enough to save the day for some people. So these are part of the things that you need to articulate properly and look at how this fits into your purpose, and then begin to now present out there in a proper way using different strategies that I've explained to communicate to the mentees. Then if you are still, I mean, if you find yourself in this category where you just don't understand where to start from, you just feel, oh, this thing still looks so uh, hazy and all of that. right? I mean, the simple way for you to navigate through that is through volunteer service. And that is why I love that you mentioned that, you know, getting engaged in not-for-profit opportunities, you have opportunities where, you are given a platform, you are given, I mean, I remember it was during COVID when I got that nudge and I understood the need to start a mentorship session because COVID, a lot of people were just reckless, they were just I do and all of that. Young people, very high do. So I just had to start a life enhancement series during that time while I was also learning from other people doing self-paced studies, some certifications. I saw the need that the few things I know is an opportunity for people during this time to also get to experience them and all of that. I mean, and from there, see where I am today. Even at a point in time, I had to convert all those things into a proper course that people can take. So, I mean, it's a mix of all of these things, but you don't want to give yourself an excuse why you don't want to consider this, having gone through this 40 days at the end of the day, because you've now understood all that it takes for you to begin the journey from this point, because this is where life begins to make more sense to you. Not all the things you've been taking in as you're running, not all those your achievements, but how you are now trying to give back, how you're now trying to create those streams of impact in the life of other people. It's very, very important. Thank you, Dr. Shadi. Any other comments or perspective or questions or feedback?
Thank you very much for tonight's session.
Welcome, it's man.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Flashadi for having a mentor at that particular age. You're so lucky. Unfortunately, unlike me, this is something, especially this tonight's session is really really deep. It talks about especially this encompassing, I want to say. So unlike me now, this is something even sorry in my environment header, is something we really lack, and that really affected me until now. So it makes me lag behind in so many things, which I should have been open to. But unfortunately, since I don't have any, I had to start, piling up, all the pile up. I have to start trying to buckle up now and put them into place now. Unlike if assuming I have a mentor now, I have a mentor, to have been better and easy for me. So I have to start picking everything up right from the scratch. That's number one. Actually, I would say I have a mentor 2023 years when I was 7. I would say it's like a mentor, but just that it is just into a different field. So it does not align with mine. So I have to drop him back. Though you see provide some assistance to me, but I still have to drop him back. I have to drop him since we don't have the same, we're not in the same profession and all that. But see, gives life's arc to me. And then what I see about this mentorship is that most people that are supposed to mentor younger generation now, are even busy. To the time to do that is not even there on the side. Thank goodness that you understand this profession. You are into architecture. Most people that are supposed to guide and direct young architects or graduates are not even available. They are always busy, if not with like meetings, site work or projects. One or two will always be upon them. So that's another thing I think cause all this. I know you have to say about that, please. I'd like you to share more light on that. And then secondly, so you talked about openness. Why some people will not cannot like yes, why some people don't have the you can't just get some people because they don't open they are not open, like they don't talk easily. So I would like to ask say something about that. there was a day in this session we asked about us. How do we spend our day? Just say on average. Normally, me, everybody was talking. I was supposed to talk, but I always have this kind of mindset that I was keeping aback, that I don't have this opinion about myself, especially about myself, that I don't like sharing, particularly to me. I like sharing how I do my day, my to do this, all those things. I don't like sharing to people. I always feel that it's kind of ego or being proud. That's one thing I used to feel about that. You want to tell people what you do when you wake up, what you did today, how your day went, like some of the efforts you put in to meet, just be like ego or pride in you. So I don't know. That's my own perspective. So I'm trying to ask now, what do you see about that? What do you see about that? So thank you. That's what I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Utman. I love your sincerity about your feeling and your perspective. Yes, I can imagine your paint. At least I'm here also practicing, and I remember how I started. You are very correct when you're talking about lack of mentorship in the discipline in the industry, and that's why someone like me decided to, rather than complaining, find a way to bridge the gap. You don't want to know what I've gone through, to get to this point in the profession. At a point in time, I think I even mentioned it here in one of the sessions that I totally lost the control, thinking that I would never practice, because that's what they made me think about, the old practice and the lack of confidence I had in myself. But hey, I eventually got my group back, and here am I. So you have the opportunity, and of course much more the younger generation. I have a couple of friends too. I mean, one of them even called me earlier this year and forcefully dragged me into our own mentorship program as well. Like, we just need to do everything possible to salvage the ordeals of the upcoming generation and all of that. So there are people, even though it might not be the significant number that is required to bridge the huge gap that has been built by the failed generation before us. But I so much believe that if we persist with the effort we are making right here, it's going to make a lot of difference, and will at least salvage some things within the wrath. So going by the question you asked, it boils down to your personality type. I mean, that's where everything starts from. Your self-awareness is about your personality type. You are someone who is highly introverted, and that is now reflecting in your expression. You are not expressive in nature. I mean, you just want to uh, confine within yourself. Remember I mentioned about the cocoon the other time, why some people are not doing assignments. I mean, now you just, affirm, my judgment, so to speak. So I think I'm
Oh,
very right. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Whoa, I can hear you. I'm with you.
Okay, am I speaking directly to you?
It's me all around.
Is it me all right? Okay, no problem. It's part of EQ. So
It's
I
okay.
mean, yeah, I mean, just to be very sincere, I mean, I feel it, and that's why the what I can do is to give the push, encourage, and let you see the need and all of that. And that's reason why mentorship is very important, because what you don't have control over, you just don't have control over, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you need, what it means now is you need an external support, right? It's like something is out of your control. You have an external forces. How then do you want to combat external forces that you don't have control over? You need an external superior force that will enable you subdue that external factor. So that's what is happening here. You can't help it. If you can help it, the way you're expressing yourself, you could have, but you can't just help it. So in this case, you will require further attention on that particular area of life, which if you neglect, is going to remain unsolved. I mean, we'll spend how many days now? 36 days. So you can imagine in the next other 36 days, if care is not taken, it will remain the same way. If it had remained the same, I don't know how old you are. For some, it will remain even till they die. It's going to remain like that because they chose not to do anything about it. They feel that is who I am. Some people even take pride in it that, don't you know this is who I am? I mean, that kind of level of ignorance. So, I mean, my counsel to you would be that you need to boldly, the same way you have expressed yourself now is just the start, right? It's like you hitting the head of the camel and you are trying to like dare whatever it is. So the next step you need to take is for us to talk one-on-one so that I can probe further. There are certain questions I will ask you, which, I mean, I don't want us to spend too much time here talking about this, right? There are other questions I will ask. By the time you begin to answer those questions, we have those kind of conversation, then you will see how you now begin to undo and then gain control. And once you're able to gain control, I mean, look at the way Favor went about her own. She came into the platform and she quickly asked for accountability partner. That's another way to handle it, because she knows that she can't just help it. She needed the support, you know, and that's what I mean by external factor. You needed the support. And maybe the person that is now even going to be a support to you needed that support also to be able to help, I mean, so this is how things work necessarily in life. And that is why relationships are very key. It takes two to tango. Uh, so please don't feel bad. That's my final word. Don't feel bad. It's just that you wouldn't know how to do life better than this until now. But now that you know what you're going to do about it is now the next step of your decision that you need to make. Okay. I don't know if this help. Um, yeah, I mean, you will definitely break out. You will definitely break out. I can assure you that you will definitely break out. You remember the story I shared to you about myself too. So if I broke out of my shell, if I was able to subdue, I mean, some people would just look at me something like, and I said I was an introvert before, like, yeah, I am. As I am, I can talk for the next 6 hours. I can talk for the next 12 hours. And yet I used to be a a chronic, if there's anything like that, a staunch introvert. So there's nothing you can learn, there's nothing you can overcome. It's just the level of the commitment and the attention you give to it if you think it's that important. Okay, time is fast spent. I'm not sure if I think Favor wanted to talk, so let me give you an opportunity. Or am I wrong?
Thank you.
So that it's not like I put you on a hot seat.
You're correct.
I'm correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Because I just wanted to share some experiences that I've had, and I think you've answered one of my questions. So let me start with the question. I wanted to ask when one can say that he or she is ready for mentoring, because I always feel like I've not developed myself enough to be able to tell people, because I feel mentoring is very important. It's molding someone, and if you end up telling people things that are not right, you misdirected, and you might not be able to bring them back to remove them. So I've always thought, like, when is one really, because so I have a friend that asked me to mentor some undergraduate students. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. I felt I wasn't ready. But something else you said today is when you're very certain that you had a grip on something and you could be a mentor to somebody, not professionally, but other areas of life. So I think that answers that question. And then there's this young girl that my sister pushed to me because she believes we have similar personality traits, and she feels I've developed myself more than she has, and I'm older. So she asked me to help guide her. But I found out that she's very difficult to get through. She's not willing to accept help. She prefers to wallow in self pity. I got tired. I didn't know how to reach out to her. But looking at her, I just knew she needed so much help. Like she was drowning, literally. And I don't think anybody like that would really be willing to receive help because, like you said, mentorship should allow people to have control of their life. And second thing I would like to add to that is it should be a decision that people should make because you can't force it on anybody. If they don't decide to receive help, then the question you'll be answering for them is how or what form that help will be because you've been on that path. So that's what I wanted to share. Being able to define what your mentorship is going to be about, and then avoiding taking control. Because sometimes most people try to come in, into your life. Another experience that I've had, I met a man for my one of my siblings as well. I spoke with him on the phone. I've never seen him. He just took interest in the conversation that I had with him, and he felt like he wanted to take over my decisions, my thoughts, everything about me. And I was not agreeing to that. At some point, I asked myself, I don't even know if I had asked you to help me that way. It's not that I don't appreciate you, but what you want to do for me is not what I'm asking you for. So those kind of scenarios and situations, that's what I would like to say.
Thank you for this. You've actually nailed all the points, and not just to repeat them again because they are just self-explanatory. I mean, you emphasize the area where I talked about not allowing you to be manipulated. Rather, you don't. You want to help. That's why we call it empowering. It's an empowerment program. Is an empowerment series. You're not manipulating people, so you need to be careful. It's usually a thin line. You might be given to helping people, and in the end of the day, you are trying to manipulate them. Sometimes passion can push people to be wrong, to be destructive. So you need to be careful. Then, of course, you start from the known. I mean, I always approach life from the perspective of risk management. I'm a risk taker, so I always I always dispose myself to manage risk. So I always ask this question, which is just a simple question of risk. What if? What if? There's always a what if scenario, right? So in as much as my goal is I want to help a life, right? What if the person decides not to be helped? What will I do? You get what am I going to do? So there are ways by which you can, I mean, even for clear conscience sake, you know, I've there's something that happened shortly after COVID. This thing really hits me hard, hits me so hard. I used to have one of my protege then. The guy we met on social media. I mean, I think I even saw him once. We met physically once in lifetime, and we were together for close to about 4 years before he eventually died. We met, and I mean, after we met, there's nothing I didn't do to ensure that I got this guy so close. But every attempt I try to make in bringing him so close, I would just see those resistance, maybe because of his job. Another time it would be because of some things he's pursuing. There is always an excuse to be far away and all of that. But I mean, the little thing I was able to do around faith, things around choices of career, blah blah blah, and all of that. I mean, were just the things I could, reminiscence about now, kind of like at least we touch base on those things. But generally, while I was thinking of even trying to even arrange us meeting, I just noticed that this guy is incommunicado. He became incommunicado. It took me over a month before I eventually got to know that he had died. I mean, it was so painful, so painful, right? So painful. And it was his boss that even told me he was involved in a building that collapsed that killed so many people. I mean, well, let me not go there. So I'm telling you the fact that some people will naturally be repulsive, some will just be recalcitrant, they will not submit, they will not make themselves available. There's nothing you can do about it, you know. So maybe you just put them on your prayer list and hope that they will have a transcendental encounter that will let them see and be self-aware that they need help. Then they can submit for help. Then I also got it correctly, the fact that people need to, I mean, when you look at the process I took everybody through to onboard you, you have to fill a form, you have to sign a commitment form. In spite of all this, you can see the trail. How many of you stood up to this time? For some, it might even still be wearisome, right? So it's normal like that because we are dealing with human beings. We are dealing with human beings and it's a contention. So you take it gradually. Some people might not be available now. It might be in the next 1 year when some things had happened in their life. And now they know that, I'm serious now, kind of. I mean, I've had those kind of situations. So yeah, you leave people at the space at which they are, and just make sure you keep, if you are so passionate about them, just keep them within the loop of your oversight. That you're still watching every opportunity. You kind of like throwing weight, and sometimes you might not necessarily have to even do the talking. Like I remember there were some of my proteges that I don't have direct access to them because they are not just available. But what I do is maybe on their birthdays, on their special occasions, maybe they're celebrating one milestone. We're still going to talk about this, how you celebrate success as part of the harvest factor. You have to look for those unique opportunities to make, a strong, to do a strong mark or a strong note. So I will buy books for them. Some even it might be at the point that they want to get married. I'll buy books, and then whatever it is that I wanted to have, I mean, I will always look for a way to still communicate, to them and all of that. And that will now become, I mean, there's even one of them that wrote a message to me on my birthday. And when I read it, I was like, I chased you for how long? So, I mean, people have conscience, trust me. They have conscience. I mean, when I read what she sent to me, I was like, oh, so you knew what I was trying to do with your life, and I'm happy that at least the little I was able to throw at you, you got it, So that's the way it is with people, you know. Okay, I think we should stop here. It's been a long time today, and I hope we are going to spend the rest of the week with more conversation. Okay, I will try to keep the subsequent sessions for my path. Let's talk, and then allow you to do more of this feedback. Okay.